think we've used VAs now for 4 years, 4 or 5 years. And early on, we tried a couple of firms, and through no fault of the firms, they ended up, one of them moved to a different country and the other one ended up going to a different employer. And so we ended up losing them. We tried the direct hire model, which was in the Philippines mainly. And that was kind of fun because I felt like a more direct relationship with the VA, and it was at a lower price point. It's more attractive in concept to go that route. But the problem that we ran into was that sometimes the accountability for that employee wasn't monitored as closely, but also we weren't ready, like with our SOPs and all that kind of stuff, to just go it alone. So that was a learning process where we're like, crap, we actually have to dedicate a person to figuring out what we want. I've heard people say stories like, yeah, we just hired our VA and then we were like, come up with our SOPs for us. That didn't work for us because you still have to put the time into training the VA on what your culture is and what your processes are so that they can write the SO. It's just a process. You just have to go through it. Not to mention like the security aspect of, are they on a secure environment? They're using some kind of a VPN. Is it SOC 2 compliant? All the stuff that really should be taken into account. So it was kind of surprised to me when we started talking with private equity and whether we were going to align with a private equity firm, if it was the right time to sell and all that kind of stuff. We signed our letter of intent. And once you go that route, there's a lot of digging into on everything. One of those was VAs. And that kind of surprised me that they didn't want to keep direct VAs, because for me, I was like, hey, this is the most profitable way to keep these team members for me, because I kind of was versed in it and knew the process. But it makes sense that they wanted more of a layer of security in there. They wanted to be able to pay a main company, have that company responsible for those team members that maybe had boots on the ground with them or could help out. And so in the due diligence, we figured out that we were going to have to move these VAs to a provider, to a firm. And that changed our valuation a lot more than I expected it to. In fact, in the first numbers are like, let's just say each team member is going to end up costing us $20,000 more yearly because of the overhead of the VA firm. That significantly affects your payout. If you can imagine, like, I don't know, anywhere between 8x plus, it could, for every single employee that you have to move from direct to a firm, it could affect your payout by like $250,000 in your payout, which is not a small amount. So for us, it was a big deal. And chatting with Wes, who I've known for a long time, the employee of record model made a lot of sense, where we could move those over as employees of record. You have everything in place. It almost feels kind of like cheating, because it's like the best of both worlds. Like, we had the relationship, but we can move them over to you. We can have the security without the higher overhead where you guys are recruiting and training and bringing them in. So for us, it made a huge difference. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional money that we got at the time that we sold as a result of being able to go through the EOR.